Shane currently lives in the beautiful Snoqualmie Valley in the town of Duval. He's been writing poetry since 1993 and doesn't show any signs of stopping. His other hobbies include hiking, playing board games, gardening, and acrylic painting. James Rosenzweig's career has taken him from high school classrooms, where he assigned poetry to high school sophomores, and on occasion made them talk about it, to college libraries now, where he helps students find the poetry they're looking for, and on occasion gets to read some himself. He would not write the poetry he does if not for the kind-hearted nagging and occasional taunting and name-calling he receives at the hands of his friends, Shane Guthrie and Graham Isaac. He is grateful for inspiration from, in no particular order, his two psychologically damaged cats, the people hanging about the streets of his neighborhood on the north side of Chicago, his former students now scattered across the globe, the whole community of people working and studying at Northeastern Illinois University, and Elizabeth, his wife of 8 years, who is not to be trifled with. To all of them, he dedicates whatever truth he has found along the way. Please welcome Shane and James.
Well, thank you. So, can we explain what this thing is?
Why not?
Okay. So, Ouroboros is two snakes.
That's how you pronounce it.
Ouroboros. That's how I believe you pronounce it, but that might not be true.
I defer to you.
I've just been calling it Ouroboros.
Yeah.
So, Ouroboros is two snakes eating each other continuously. So, like, one snake eats, the other snake eats, and then they make more snake. So you just get infinite snake.
Yes.
Two infinite snakes. It depends. Because sometimes it's two snakes, sometimes it's one snake.
Do
But
they
anyway,
actually make more snakes?
they make more snake. They are eating snake, and they are making snake. That's why it's infinity. If they just made snake or just ate snake, that wouldn't work.
I thought they just bit each other's tails.
No, it's not like a malice thing. It's a symbol of infinity. So
Come on, away.
this is representing James and I biting each other's tails and going around in circles. What we would do is you would take a poem and you'd take the last line, and you would take that as your first line for the next poem. So in a sense, this entire book is entirely circular. There's not a beginning or an end. You just go around and around, and if you don't pay attention, you get back to the beginning and you read it again. So just watch out for that. You should get one. Indeed. So, we'll begin. We'll begin right now. I only know what poetry can't do. It can't start the revolution, even if you are very explicit about it. It can't bring down walls or buildings, nor can it erect them. It can't put a man on the moon or the moon into the earth, but that's not the sad part. The sad part is, it can't do the one thing it's supposed to do. It can't make someone love you who doesn't.
Make someone love you who doesn't. Stop stalling. Stop waiting until there's a perfect breeze and you can hear music drifting downhill from the park. The kind of day that comes along only once every few years. The kind of day where you feel ready to look someone in the eye, where the right words fall from your lips like bird song, like warm molasses, and no one on earth could resist your overture. You've been waiting for that kind of day for too long now. Make someone love you who would bet money against that chance. Someone who has sized you up and set you aside, not cruelly, but without regret or doubt. You know her name. Don't wait for her to come find you. Go to her. Pick a normal afternoon. A day when it's raining. A day when, as you look out the window, you suddenly remember your overdue library book. Pick a day no one else would have picked. That's the only way she'll recognize what's happening. She won't realize at first why you're there. It will be difficult, but you are not trying to sprout wings here, not trying to raise the dead. You are asking someone to love you who doesn't. This happens every day. On your way to her door, you passed 6 people who just realized they love someone today they didn't yesterday, and 7 people who only now noticed they are no longer in love. This kind of tidal motion is both human and cosmic. It is on your side today. The waves are coming onto the shore. Be there to meet them.
Be there to meet them as the coffins are lowered from the cargo jet. The news crews won't be there to witness how you salute or the look on your face as the crying starts or if it does not. You don't need to say anything because nothing you can say can make it right. If they need to cry on you or if they need to hit you, let them. You need to be witness to the consequence of your orders.
The consequence of your orders is that the kitchen will be out of pesto the rest of the evening. When my next table wants to order the chicken Florentine for 2, I'm going to have to tell them there isn't any left. I'm not blaming you for scarcity. Anything you have is something you can run out of. They say that love alone multiplies, that the more you give away, the more you get. Well, they haven't been in this part of town lately. Haven't seen the look in my eyes. Even if he comes back, his teeth ablaze with that smile that surrounds me like an army, his voice full of forgotten promises, it is impossible that he could bring back as much love as I gave out. No human could bear the weight of it and live. You don't want to hear this right now. You want me to leave you alone unless your glass is empty, and that's all right. Somebody was going to have to take the last of what I have, and it might as well be you.
And it might as well be you that becomes our next governor. The other 2 candidates are facing federal charges. McNamara was using the state jet to visit his mistress, and Johnson was caught with that transvestite hooker. Their campaigns never even considered you. You only polled 2%. Just saying your name to call you a communist or a fascist would only have helped you. Will you go to the Capitol steps and talk about how honored you are to be chosen for such a distinguished field and thank them for focusing on the issues? Will you roar that pensive cry of the meek and inherit the earth?
Inherit the earth like the birds do. Not asking for it, not waiting for someone's permission, but accepting it like the color of your eyes. Take the sky and sea for playthings, because the miracle of how you can change the universe beats hell out of all the ways you can't. Claim all life as your dominion, not because you are better, but because by living you are of one blood, all kinfolk in the true royal line, joint heirs to a throne you did not build and cannot explain. Lastly, accept the best gift, the present hidden behind the tree. Receive yourself, birth, body, and death, owning it in the same way as the rest, loving it no more fiercely and with no less grace. Do not forget how small you are. Do not forget how much you carry.
Do not forget how much you carry. I gave you everything I had. I cradled your crying nights when I should have been sleeping. I changed your dirtiest diapers. I gave up my 30s and 40s for you. I threw away my hobbies. I gave up bad habits. I canceled vacations. I worked late nights to get promotions into jobs I hated. I spent more money than I'd ever thought I'd earn to make you happy. I gave you everything I didn't have growing up. I broke myself for you, and now you say that's not what you wanted? That all you wanted was love, attention? Anyone could have given you that.
Anyone could have given you that yellow coat, but it was me who did. Don't you remember me? I've let myself breathe these last few months, and now when I see someone dancing in the rain or hear the words Ferris wheel or get a longing in my belly for Kung Pao chicken 3 stars, I don't nearly vomit thinking about you. We can be friends now, I think. Or at least I can stand to sit in your living room without my hands shaking and play a game of Scrabble or Boggle with Chris and Nick, like we used to, but without as many jokes, or the secret smiles shared over words only we two understood. That's why I'm here, now, standing on your porch helping you lug boxes for the Goodwill into my double-parked Honda Accord, and it's just the 2 of us, and I was fine with that until I saw that damn coat I got you. Even though I told you it wasn't warm enough for winter, because I thought it reminded you of stormy days and being a kid for an afternoon again, but maybe I misunderstood. I don't expect you to keep these things forever, but could you not let go while I'm still hanging on?
But could you not let go while I'm still hanging on? The log on your side drops and takes with it a bite of my shin. If it was 20 years ago, it would have been on purpose, and now we would be fighting in the mud. But you say, oh, sorry, man. Now we split rounds of fur. You want it to be a tough guy competition. You used to look up to me. Now we stand the same height. Do you remember those days we spent playing video games in the room that is now your bedroom? I somehow stopped just before you got too good to play against. I gave up competing with you a long time ago, my littlest brother. You can win if what you need is winning. I need your help more than I need to win, but more. I need to remember with you who we were.
Who? We were the sons of an absent mother. We were the hollow darkness inside the jar, aching to fill with something wanted and whole. We were the ash that fell from the sky on a day no one would be able to forget. What? It would be a fury equal to our heartbreak, a violence that tears out the breath. It would be as sudden and as sharp as the winter wind. It would carve the terrors of a generation into the unyielding stone. When? As the last thaw took the ice from the river, as the lambs were being born in the fields, on a day that in years to come would bring silent, unwelcome tears to the eyes of the survivors. Where? There beneath an empty heaven we were prepared to fill, amid the hills that had watched us in our childhood, in the shadow of the world we rejected and the world we desired to control. Why? Many will ask. Our answer is that there is no answer.
There is no answer that can satisfy me, but my hands shake, wanting to squeeze your thin throat, and I have to ask, why? You will say, because the world is fucked. You will use terrible words like beating, dungeon, rape, blame your parents. You will say you are out of your mind, you could not do otherwise, you're very sorry. You look like a man that might do someone's taxes, deliver packages to suburban porches, whistle a good morning. When you speak, you use human words like the ones in my mouth, the ones in all the bedtime stories I read, but how could you hold a child's trust like a leash and push him off such a cliff again and again? A man could not do that. A human could not do that. I can't believe in a world where the devil looks just like me, where there is a why for this what.
There is a why for this what, because in the land of words there are no lonely hearts. Every Q will find its U. Each neither and nor keep house together, and no infinitive remains split forever. In the land of words there are conjunctions enough to bind up every broken clause, and context wraps its arms around every slur until it can shed its identity and be reborn. Though marshaled by humans in anger or terror among themselves, the words make no war. Judgment and mercy do not quarrel. Despair lies down to rest in the lap of hope. The birth of a new word brings postpartum joy. Because everyone's definition is understood, all are valued for who they really are, and no earthly dictionary's neglect can rob a word of its purpose. They unite and part by night and day, aligning to express the universe's ideas and the dreams that will never be, the endless dance of meaning in the land of words.
In the land of words, shut your child mouth. The clever ones have already been crowned. You can carry your loose leaf and try to talk about your plot and your precious characters, but you're not fooling anyone. No one wants to read your juvenile ramblings, what you spent years working on. It's worse than the laziest dash-off by any man here. Not that they would ever do such a thing. Their craft is careful and thorough, researching and planning, and yes, injecting some of that intangible magic that makes greatness and takes it perfection. This is what the reflection in the door said, but I pushed it open anyway.
I pushed it open. Any way the crowds wanted to, they surged, shouting Black Friday instructions to their conscripts, heaving like a tide into the electronics section for this hollow holiday. The day after gratitude, when all we want is to carry over that full feeling into some other place inside us that remains empty. And as much as I want to look down on you as you pass like war-torn refugees between the theft prevention gates, I am complicit in this profane event. I am trading my time for something of yours. Not just money, but something larger than that. the dignity of longing that is lost by possession, the kindness we earn by learning how to live without.
By learning to live without, I made my life better. I jumped off the roller coaster, rolled to a scratched and mouth-bleeding stop. I filled my life till it was too busy to do that bad thing. But I would still dream about it a few times a week. In the dreams I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. I would wake and wonder, when would I be like other people? When would I be healthy? How many years until my mind would stop trying to relive those nights? I've heard it said the mind never forgets. It is only the recalling that becomes difficult. You can only forgive. Every crime you have committed is written in you.
Written in, you find yourself unexpectedly the winner of an election. Chosen by the people without being asked, called to an office you did not seek. Out on the sidewalk, the reporters clamor, hustling cameras into place, dialing your number repeatedly from the smartphones jammed against their left ears. Your cereal box still sits on the counter, forgotten in the confusion. On the television, Good Morning America is interviewing your ex-girlfriend. You sit down and compose an email to the world. You are a victim of democracy, you say. You have been cheated of a life you will never get back. Even if you refuse to take the oath, you will refuse to take the oath, you tell them. You delete the email without sending it. Who are you, after all, to question the wisdom of a nation? Vox populi, vox dei.
Vox populi, vox dei. We voted with our hearts. We voted in ignorance. Call it faith. We voted the party line. Sometimes we voted for anyone new. They smiled and shook hands and seemed like good people. But they all ended up being charlatans and monsters. They would pull every dirty trick and break our trust. We couldn't believe in them anymore. But worse, God refused to strike them down.
God refused to strike them down, even though we all told him that we would understand. I mean, nobody likes a 7-10 split, but until that Thursday, we'd never had a bowler whose omnipotent power could compel the pins to fall. He was shockingly laid back about it, though, drinking a domestic beer and pointing out that the challenge was more than half the fun. He didn't pick up the spare, but I think we were more upset about it than he was. Between games, someone tried to get him chatting about free will, but he bit his lip a little and said, "Hey, guys, could we just focus on the bowling for tonight? Friday's going to be one hell of a day." We all felt awkward for a minute or two, and then Jimmy got him another Michelob. A couple of the guys went off and called friends, told them not to travel on Friday. Bill said he needed to get home and spend some time with his kids. I just sat there, watching God bowl, wondering what was on his mind as he waited for the ball return, and what it would be like to pray on Friday.
Pray on Friday. Have that done. Tell God how grateful you are for the things he has made and given to you, that you thought it best to check in with him earlier rather than later. Head out to your night, whatever it is you look forward to. Stay out past your curfew. Enjoy yourself. On Sunday morning, when everyone else is shuffling, hung over into the pews, sleep in. You've got that done. There's so much argument over what the seventh day is. It Friday, Saturday, Sunday? When did God rest? If we can't even agree on his day off, there's probably a good bit of wiggle room in the rest of the book.
The rest of the book was just fine, Eric thought. Maybe a little slow and overly complicated, but the entire 7th chapter had been a revelatory experience, like something out of a fever dream. Each sentence passing through his mind like a trumpet solo by a jazz genius, accompanied by the intense feeling that on a deep level this chapter was about who he really was. The challenge for Eric, then, was to understand just what it was about the placid, grazing unicorn and the loving gazes bestowed upon it by the Princess Astagonia that had moved him to his very core. All week he'd tried to broach the subject casually while hanging out with friends, but the minute he'd said, hey, guys, isn't it weird how sometimes you feel like an elf maiden inside? The faces turning in horror somehow seized control of his jaw and clamped it shut. In the end, Eric had to face the fact that some people are really into unicorns, and some of those people are dudes. The world will never understand them.
He's not friends with people who play RPGs.
The world will never understand them. They will speak their dead language to each other and to linguists who will scratch their heads for years. If we could read the loopy scrawl of their language, would it tell us where they have a long-lost city with tombs full of fabulous wealth? They would have forgotten it by now, just a myth, or why would they live in such poverty? Is it a tongue worth twisting? Do they have sacred texts full of stories so different or so universal? We could translate them into some new religion or maybe a weird animated movie? Or is it just some knockoff of another language, just an island where a dialect became too foreign to be just an accent? But it's too late. The old ones are forgetting day by day, and the children just want Coca-Cola when the anthropologists row up the river.
The anthropologists row up the river to Shambhala to raise up an army that will destroy the world we know. In their wake follow the sociologists. Above them soar the behavioral psychologists in rented helicopters. There are interdisciplinary studies majors on the jungle paths. They have chronicled the horrors of modernity. They have writ their prophecies in the pages of peer-reviewed university press journals. They have posted their observations of postmodern humanity on neglected WordPress blogs. They are all supplicants now before the Kalki king, Aniruddha who will bind the world, whose words can unleash the fury of time itself. They ask him not to wait for the king who is to come. They have seen the nightmare of the West, the void that is swallowing up all cultures and peoples, the oligarchy of the dollar and the microchip. They bend their knees before the lion throne. How will even mighty Aniruddha withstand their pleas? What soldier will not rise to war when called by the social scientists?
When called by the social scientists, we would wander up to their slovenly desks, set down our binders full of old pictures, love letters, and faded cigar boxes. They would look up from something they were reading. Well, what have you got there? They would ask, dismissively. We would show them what Grandpa looked like, where Grandma had given birth, marriage certificates, death certificates, maybe tidbits about the war. That's pretty interesting, right? Sure. A few questions about when and who and where, but it was clear that we didn't have the interesting parts of history they were sifting for. Thank you, they would say, going back to their manuscript, keeping nothing of what we had brought. Our beloveds would be forgotten.
Our beloveds would be forgotten. This the doctors told each of us, but somehow we did not account for this steady mutual loss, piece by piece. The first disappearance happened last summer for me. I couldn't think for the life of me who the boy was in that picture with the debate trophy. Now only on good days can I retrieve the memory of our son. For her, it was in the autumn. The leaves, I think, were just letting go of the trees, and she called suddenly to me across the kitchen table as if across a void. "Who are you? How did you get into my home?" She was frightened. We are both adrift now, taken different ways by the currents, watching the same landscape recede in the distance, and soon we will both lose sight of the last peak to which both our compasses can sight. Alone, then, we will be carried apart in the utter darkness, hoping even when we have lost the memory of hope, and waiting for the farther shore.
Waiting for the farther shore to come and raise a mountain range, bring all those specialized animals that might destroy us. It is visible on that horizon 1,000,000 years more, and it will be here, making that slow, grinding impact, but there will be no noise. The catastrophe will be so slow, we won't know that it is coming. It will catch our descendants perched on a branch down in a gully, something new and sharp we've never seen before. Or it will have us starving to death, food too hard to find because someone else got there first and better. This is always happening in slow motion. The massacres go on and on.
The massacres go on and on at a microscopic level, where the viruses are slain in their thousands by white blood cells amped up like Rambo. This is the nearly endless cycle of death that is perpetuated inside of every moment we call health. Every now and then I bend down to microbe eye level and ask myself if they see themselves as the rebellion, a slew of young guns all throwing caution to the wind, coursing through the tunnels of the bloodstream to get at the heart of the monolith that is my body and bring down the giant.
Bring down the giant from Lawrencetown to fight the freak we found. Some anomaly from the backwoods, fought like a devil, said he was inbred. The barker pulled in half the town, wrinkled cash and coins stuffed in a wooden box. Someone painted a chunk of plywood with a terrible likeness of them both, like war propaganda. Drool, bloodshot eyes, warts on fingers. I don't know what was told to them or done to them, but they put on a brutal, disgusting show, and we loved it. Like watching Goliath climbed over, strangled, chewed on. Like Jerusalem itself were under siege, and this was the only way. But David would not be proud.
David would not be proud of me today if he had lived. He would be sitting in my kitchen holding a beer idly in one hand and with the other drawing little patterns in the condensation rings on the table. He would be looking 37 degrees away from me, just far enough away to make me feel deserted, just close enough so I could feel his eyes. There would be questions masquerading as statements. I guess it's better to make a reliable salary, he'd say. It's only kids who can get away with all that crap about integrity and making a difference. He'd nudge me into defending the wrong side of the argument, the side where it turns out all my decisions make me an asshole, and then just lean back, smiling, and shrug because he wasn't the kind of guy who gloated once he knew he had you beat. That kind of honesty was the gift we gave each other. They say the dead are never really gone because they live on in our memories. But I am driving out the David I remember with every year that moves me away from the guy I was when he was my friend. One of these days, in the kitchen of my mind, David will push away from the table and, with disgust in his remembered eyes, walk out a door to where I cannot follow and die for me a second time.
You will die for me a second time. Rover the first got old and you have that rare blood disorder, but for them, we only had one dog. The third Rover should last. I've gotten him screened for everything. I had some time since you were so sick for so long. His spots are in different places, but otherwise he looks just like you. I told the kids you were going to the hospital to get you all fixed up. I said, you might look a little different, and that you might not remember all the tricks they taught you because of the strong medicine. Sorry, but I'm not ready to explain death to them yet. You had a fine life without knowing. Would you have been happier if you did? No, I don't think so. I'm the only one who will miss you. When you lick my hand, I hope you mean I love you too.
I love you too expertly. I have gotten much too good at remembering your family's birthdays and noticing when you've had a bad day. I spent most of yesterday marking up the fall preview issue of TV Guide with all the series I know you'll want to try out, and frankly, you weren't enthusiastic enough about it when I was done. I have run out of ways of reorganizing your closet so that it is easier for you to wear things that match. You never wear the mood ring I spent weeks calibrating, and to be honest, I don't get the feeling that you understand how hard it is to draw someone's blood so skillfully that they don't wake up while it's happening, or how much lab work it then took for me to diagnose your artichoke allergy. It's come down to this. I am much too skilled at loving you. Maybe if things had been different, we could have worked out. If you could have developed a heroin addiction or some kind of really intense PTSD, it would have been challenging enough to hold my interest, but I kind of doubt it. Your recent attempts at alcoholism are sweet, but it's too late for that kind of gesture now. In the end, you were too easy to figure out, and too hard to please.
Too hard to please, dear. I don't know about that. The paella is good. I said it was good. It's just not as good as that night in Valencia, when we were lost and hungry in the rain. Remember Barcelona? When we camped out in the flat and practically lived on oranges? I think if we learned enough Spanish, that might have been the place, but it did get pretty hot. Of course, Switzerland was better in that way, but it was so expensive. Italy? Yeah, I liked Italy quite a lot. But there were so many little things that just didn't work correctly. I'm not sure what I'd do for money. Let's try France. There's a lot to like there. I think we just need to find the right place. Then we can finally be happy. But this time, dear, don't pack so much. The trip is colored by what you bring along.
You bring along an electric kettle and some oranges for our indoor picnic. I bring Walt Whitman. The air in the atrium is heavy with moisture, the thickness of the rain pushing against the glass, the steam rising from your mug of green tea. Your legs are folded underneath you as you sit like Buddha calling the earth to witness. I read a section aloud from the Song of Myself, the bit that begins with a wild gander, and I close my eyes when I reach passages I know by heart. When I open them, I see the orange slowly unspooling, your hands twirling it like you were God unmaking a planet, lifting away the crust to let the insides boil away into space. You start to tell me about your dreams. I am reminded of Langston Hughes. I talk of the inspiration I draw from Harlem in the 30s, of the strength coiled in those sinuous phrases. Dark chocolates materialize from your jacket pocket. You talk about the storm outside, how it brings you back to long childhood afternoons, to high school heartbreaks made gentler when your tears blended in with the rain like flashlights crossing in the dark. I almost quote Robert Frost, but cannot remember the line that matters most. There is a long moment when we are quiet together. And I can tell how easy that silence is for you, while all inside me is abuzz with the words I think will win you over, the words. I ask about the tattoo on your ankle, unfamiliar letters, language I can't read. It's Socrates, you say. Well, Plato, really. It says, know thyself. And I realize you can. Me? I only know what poetry can't do.
I'm giving you a lying ovation.
That's as long as you mean it.